Hello everyone, my name is Drew Hurley, and today we're going to be taking a look at the electric grid in the United States. Specifically, we will be evaluating how electricity is generated, transmitted, and delivered to us here in Ada, Ohio, as well as looking at potential issues facing said electric grid. In order to do that, we will be evaluating real-life infrastructure utilized in order to get electricity here to you and I here in Ada, as well as potential issues facing said infrastructure in real life. Now, before we go any further, we first need to look at the three different stages of electricity within the power grid. These involve electrical generation, transmission, and distribution. Electrical generation is pretty self-explanatory. It's the process in which electricity is generated, typically by means of coal, natural gas, nuclear, or some form of renewables, albeit there are many other different forms. From there, the power is typically stepped up in a substation to high voltages, typically anywhere from 138 kV to 765 kV, to be transferred over transmission lines. Now, transmission lines, being the second stage of the process, involve transmitting electricity over long distances at high voltages to maintain efficiency before being stepped down at localized substations into lower voltages in order to be sent into the distribution grid. Now, the distribution grid is where electricity is then transmitted locally to customers, businesses, industries, and you and I to be used through day-to-day consumption. Seeing this map, the first question we need to consider is how are we getting power from the point of generation, that being the Mitchell coal-fired power plant, all the way over to Ada, Ohio, over in the western Ohio cornfields. The Mitchell coal-fired power plant is a 1,632.6 megawatt coal-fired facility located in Moundsville, West Virginia, which provides power and resources to three surrounding states, including Ohio, West Virginia, and Pennsylvania. The facility was built in 1971 and continues to operate. However, it being all the way in West Virginia, we need to figure out how we're going to get the power from there to here. Thankfully, there's a pretty easy answer for that. The Mitchell coal-fired power plant is connected to a variety of different transmission lines. Now, transmission lines are high-voltage power lines that are utilized to deliver power over long distances. These are typically 765 kilovolt, 345 kilovolt lines. However, lower sub-level transmission lines can include 138 kV and even all the way down to 69 kV. For the purpose of this exercise, we will be utilizing a 765 kilovolt high-voltage transmission line and a 345 kilovolt transmission line in order to get power from the Mitchell coal-fired plant all the way over to the Lima substation. Now, there's no exact way to trace what electrons are going to go through these lines and end up at each exact location. However, through the EIA transmission line map, we're able to get a good idea of where the electronic flow could end up at, theoretically placing it over near Lima. For the next portion of the electrical grid, we will be taking a look at the substation. Now, substations are critical in both the transmission and distribution aspect of the electrical grid. Substations serve one primary purpose, and that is to jump high voltage transmissions down to lower levels to be able to use within local distribution systems. Now, whether that's jumping a 765 kV line down to a 345 kV or a 69 kV into a 39 kV distribution line, they serve a wide variety of potential ranges and uses. Typically, the higher the voltage, the larger the substation. The substation shown in this video is a localized substation which jumps down low voltage transmission lines into distribution level usage. In most instances, yards such as this one host either 138 kV or 69 kV transmission lines, and the majority of these substations are aging, including this one. 70% of them are nearing or over 25 years of age. So once the transmission line hits the substation and is dropped down to lower levels of voltages to be utilized in distribution, the electricity enters the distribution network, at which point it is able to be connected to local customers, industries, and businesses. In this case, the electricity enters the substation and moves out to serve the local grid, theoretically traversing a path all over to Ada, Ohio. Once it reaches Ada, it can be used to serve a variety of purposes, including some of the local businesses, including Buckeye East is one of my favorites, customers, and people such as you and I. Now that we have a better understanding of how electricity is delivered to you and I here in Ada, Ohio, it's time for us to look at some potential issues that the electric grid is facing. Specifically, one of the major ones is outdated components. It is estimated that over 70% of all transmission line components have reached over the age of 25 years and are nearing the end of their lifespan. Another critical issue that we'll evaluate further is that of the age of our power generation. The Mitchell coal-fired power plant was opened in 1971 and had an expected lifespan of 40 to 50 years. With that being said, the plant should have retired in about 2021. However, as you'll see in this upcoming news clip, the plant is expected to stay open till at least 2040 at the expense of potential electric rates for you and I.
Has approved a request from the Appalachian Power and Wheeling Power Company to keep the Mitchell, Amos, and Mountaineer plants in operation until at least 2040. This order will not immediately affect any power bills of any West Virginia customer. The order highlights the benefits of the continued operation of these facilities, especially their effect on the Mountain State's overall economy. That includes not only the jobs at these plants, but the state, county, and local taxes that are generated from the operation of the plants. For a more detailed look, you can head over to our website, WTRF.com.
While a significant victory for those who are directly economically impacted by the Mitchell coal-fired power plant, the continued operation of the plant does pose a question of reliability about our country's power grid. Having expected to be operated with at least 20 years past its initial expected lifespan, the Mitchell coal-fired power plant is an example of aging generational infrastructure. That, paired with aging transmission and distribution infrastructure, does pose a potential question about the reliability of our electrical grid. As discussed, the electric grid is a very complex and nuanced system of many new moving parts that allows electricity to be transmitted over miles and miles to directly benefit customers such as you and I. However, if this infrastructure is not evaluated and/or upgraded within the next few years, questions about potential blackouts and brownouts have been raised. With that being said, I'm not saying that we need to go in and close all these aging power plants or that even we should shut down or move away from certain sectors of the industry. However, if we want to maintain accessible and reliable electricity for people like you and I, it is time to consider whether upgrades need to be made to our country's electrical grid. With that, I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video to learn more about our country's electrical grid and some of the problems facing it. While potential problems do face our country's grid and many other aspects of our country's infrastructure, as engineers, we are the ones who will be responsible for fixing those problems and the ones who have been responsible for it. There is hope for a brighter future because of us, and through us, we can work to create a better tomorrow for all of us.